Hello guys and gals, animal friends and spirit pals, and welcome to my channel. Thanks for being here. This video is going to be another animal tale that I like to share with you. And today's tale I'm going to call The Bear Necessities. Here's some little pink bears here in honor of it. And let's begin. Once upon a time, many years ago, I was planning a trip with my mom and dad, who came out to California to visit me, to the Sequoia National Forest. Now, the Sequoia Forest is fantastic. If you've been there, you know it. And if you haven't, and you have a chance to go, you should. Because those trees are like living gods and goddesses on the earth, standing for hundreds of years. They're just so magnificent, so beautiful. I don't know how you couldn't feel the presence of God when you're in that forest. It's just so gorgeous. And I had been there a couple times before, when I'd gone up there and spent a few nights in some cabins in the woods, and just loved it. Now, when I'd been before, I never saw a bear up there. No bears, ever. And I know there's a lot of bears in Sequoia and in the Sequoia National Forest, but never saw one. When I was a little kid, one of the few vacations we went on was to the Smoky Mountains. And with my mom and dad, and I was little, I guess about 6, around there. And we went up to the top of the mountain, and when we got there, there was a mama bear and 2 cubs that were walking around. And we got in our car, and she came over to the car and checked it out with the little cubs and walked past. And that was just a thrilling experience when I was a kid. Oh, I can't tell you how exciting that was. And also the rest of my family enjoyed it a lot. So I kind of thought about, how come I never see any bears? I know there's a lot of bears there, and I would like to see them. So once again, I did the old make an appointment thing that I'd learned with the dolphins, and I thought maybe this would work with bears. I don't know. Let's try it. So I went into meditation, and I prayed and said to the universe, this is something I'd like to experience. I'd like to just see the bears. I'm not going to touch them or bother them, but I like to see them if they're there, and if it's safe for me and the bears and everyone concerned, and if that's okay, that's something I'd like to experience. And if it's not, that's okay too, but I'm just kind of putting in my bid. And I wanted to make an appointment and tell you that I'm going to the Sequoia, and maybe the bears can meet me there. And I gave them the dates and all that. And then we went to Sequoia. So I was in the car with my parents. My partner and my brother were in another car. My sister had also come to California, so she was also on the trip. And on the way up, before we were going to stay in the giant forest, and then in the giant forest in Sequoias, where there's really a large grove of the Sequoia giants. And at that time, you could stay in a cabin in the giant forest, but they were rustic cabins, so there wasn't electricity. You had kerosene lamps, and you had a wood burning stove, and so there wasn't any power. There was a community shower and bathroom area, but your cabins were pretty rustic. When I think back now, I'm kind of surprised I took my mom and dad to those rustic cabins, but I knew they were going to like the forest and that part of the forest, and they loved it. And they were good sports about everything. So that's where we were going. So just before we got into the giant forest part of the park, because it's in different parts of the park. There's Kings Canyon, which is way up top and a lot colder, and different place to stay, but we were going to the giant forest. Plus, I just love that name, the giant forest. Who doesn't want to go? And just before we got into the giant forest area, there was a bear on the side of the road. So on our trip in, there was a bear. And of course, in my head, immediately, I think, oh, he came because of my my appointment, and he agreed to show himself. Now, of course, a lot of other people saw him too, but that's my thought because, I'd done that thing, and now here's a bear, and I'd been here a few times before, never saw a bear, so I thought, that's interesting. We got on, unpacked and stuff like that, and then later that evening, a bear came into the cabin area where the showers were, and when I left that area, I saw a bear mulling around the showers. Now, up there, they're used to bears, so you have to keep all your food and everything put away, and the trash cans and everything are locked so they can't get them. But he was still kind of checking to see if anybody left something or forgot something. And I thought, wow, that's great. Now I'd seen 2 bears, and I'd been and never seen any. And I know a lot of people go and never see a bear. So I was pretty excited, and again, I chalked it up to, well, this is because I made that appointment, and the bears are answering. And thank you, and that was exciting, and I thank you, and I love you, and thank you. Then that next day, I went to the meadow with my brother. I can't remember. I think it was just my partner, my brother, and I. There may have been someone else. I can't quite remember who went. But there was a giant meadow there, and this meadow was created because 2 of the giant redwood trees, sequoia trees, had fallen, really huge trees, fallen, and on 2 ends, and that in itself created the meadow because it made water stay there longer and stuff like that. And it was filled with flowers, and it was gorgeous, and I had been to that meadow before, loved it, and I wanted to take my brother there and show him too. And so we sat on one of the giant trees that had fallen. We were sitting down towards the end, and we crossed the meadow to the other side and sat on that end of the tree. And we sat there, and it was beautiful. We were just enjoying the meadow and the birds and insects and the nature. Really, God's presence is what I was enjoying. And it was starting to get dusk. And then right at dusk, out of the forest on both sides of the meadow came a bear. And there was one bear going this way and one bear going this way. And they just slowly crossed it. They were far apart. They didn't really acknowledge one another. They didn't acknowledge us. We were really quiet. Didn't make any sounds or anything. We were just quietly watching. And they just slowly crisscrossed and went to the other side. Now, by the time they finished this, it was getting really dark. Because it was dusk and then it was dark. And we had one flashlight, and so we thought, well, we better get back to the car and go back to the camp, back to the cabins, because it's getting so dark. And so we crossed the meadow, went back to our cars where they were parked in the parking lot, and we heard the bear, one of the bears, the one that came on that side, walking in this little speck of woods that was there. And then he was like pretty much right behind us. So we got in our car and, rolled up the windows. And he came up to the parking lot, and he kind of walked around the edge of the parking lot, checked out a locked trash can, and then he just wandered on into the woods. And, we sat there in the car and watched him. So now I've seen 4 bears on my trip to Sequoia. 4. Were they all answering my prayers and my appointment? Was that just a coincidence now that I've seen 4 bears? I guess some people would say it was. But for me, the old appointment thing came up loud and clear every time a bear would appear. And so I couldn't really think one wasn't connected to the other. So let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bears. The next day, I went for a walk to a smaller meadow. Now, this is much smaller than that giant meadow I'd been to before. And it was just full of wildflowers. And I was also going down. There was a gift shop that was farther down on the main road. And this path, it was just a footpath, you could take that and go to the shop. And that's what I was going to go look for. They had these beautiful tapes of Native American flute. I remember I bought one of those. And I was coming back by myself walking, and then I heard something behind me moving, and I turned, and on the path, it was just a little small footpath. And I didn't really see anybody else on the path the whole way to the store and the whole way back. No one did I ever see. When I turned around, there was a bear following me on the path. Now, this was a young bear. He was like a preteen, teenage bear. And he was pretty cute. And he was like, la la la. He's like little happy bear, bumpity bum, bumpity bum. And he was just following me along like in a playful way, kind of like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to catch you. And so I just continued to walk, and he just followed along behind me like a puppy dog, which I thought was pretty unusual. Pretty exciting. I was pretty thrilled. Not only am I seeing bears, now here's a little young bear by himself. Now I know, I'm smart enough to know that if there's a young bear, there's probably a mama bear pretty close. So of course I wasn't gonna, try to touch him or anything like that. And all along my thing was not to interact with the bears. It was just I wanted them to come and show themselves to me and feel safe enough that they could come out when I'm around without feeling they were going to be harmed or anything like that. And that was pretty exciting. He followed me for about, I'm going to say 8 to 10 minutes along the path, and then he kind of headed up into the woods again. Now that time there was nobody with me when I saw that little bear, and that was really pretty exciting. That night, we're getting to the end of our time there. We spent 2 nights. And I'm sitting out in the little old rustic cabin, which just love those cabins. And they have a little porch where there's a wood burning stove outside for cooking, and there's one inside for heat. And there's like a picnic table with, seats attached. And so everybody went to bed, and I'm still up. And I went out with my tarot cards. I brought them with me. I used this deck called the Mother Peace. I love that deck of tarot. This is before I was channeling. But I used this deck and these tarot cards a lot to help Spirit speak to me in a way I could hear more clearly and understand. And so I thought this would be a great place to, do a reading for myself with the cards and thank the universe for my bear sightings and just see what the cards wanted to say. So I'm spreading the cards out on the table. There was a kerosene lamp, it was dark, it was nighttime, and really dark up in the woods. There's not any light or anything except for the stars. And then I'm doing my tarot and sort of in a meditative state, and then I hear rustling, and then there's a bear at my porch. And then the bear walks up on the porch right to the table, puts his foot up on the table where I'm reading the cards. And at this point, I'm thinking, "Ooh, boy, that's pretty close." I'm thinking, "Okay, buddy, maybe that's close enough." I know you look like you want a tarot reading, but I don't know if that's the smartest thing for me to do. So I picked up my cards and my light, and I went into the cabin and then just watched him out the window. He came up on the porch, smelled around a little bit, went down on the porch, and then walked on away. Now that was pretty exciting. And you will never be able to convince me that that was not related to my prayer. The bear came to get a tarot reading. You're not going to be able to convince me otherwise. And then just as a cap to the story, on our way out, there was another bear on the road as we were leaving the park. Total of 7 bears. So I made this appointment with bears and with the universe and with God, and then seven bears showed up. 7's kind of a magical number too, you might know. And you'll never convince me otherwise that they didn't come because I asked them to. Now, a lot of people have gone to Sequoia and seen bears. A lot of people have gone to Sequoia and never seen bears. And I guess you could say it's a coincidence, but I don't know. 7 coincidental bears. And like a lot of them right with me, right, like almost on me, is kind of pushes the boundaries that could be a coincidence, at least for me. And again, this was long before I worked at the zoo. Later on, I took care of a wonderful black bear at the zoo. His name was Ranger. Loved him to pieces. Such an old honey bear. And he really liked me, and he trusted me, and he was friendly with me. And at the same time, he could be a big old ferocious, wild, scary bear if someone he didn't know came back there, or a vet. He hated the vets, so he would just want to kill them and be all nice and sweet with me, then immediately turn into, the bear beast when they came in. The minute they left, he'd come lay down by me and lick food off my fingers again. That was really one of his favorite things. I'd bring him some peanut butter or jelly, or he loved these little caramel candies. And so I would give him a couple, things like that, and he would just lick my fingers clean and put my fingers in his mouth. I don't imagine the people I worked for at the zoo would have liked to have heard that. So of course, I didn't really share that with them. But when you have a trusting, loving relationship with the animals, you can do things differently than other people might. I used to always say, if I was training someone, just do what I say, don't do what I do. Because my relationship is different than yours is going to be until you're able to build up a trusting relationship. So if you see me petting somebody, don't you do that, because this has been going on a while, and he trusts me and I trust him, or whatever. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on that, except bears and how much I love them. And I still do to this day. Okay, you guys, I hope you liked that story. If you have any bear experiences you want to share with me, love to hear them. Got a lot more animal tales, and I hope you're enjoying them, and I hope you want me to share some more. If you do, let me know in the comments. Like the video if you did, and join my channel if you'd like to. I'd really appreciate it. I love all you guys. I'm that guy that loves all the animals. I'm that weirdo that loves all the colors, all the flowers, all the trees. People always would ask me, what is your favorite animal at the zoo? And my answer is always, well, it's the one that I'm taking care of at the time. The one that's in front of me is my favorite in the moment, because I really love all of them equally. And I strive to have a loving, positive relationship with all the animals I am given the opportunity to take care of. Every one of them, and I love each one the same. I don't care if it's a snake, a rat, a bear, a tiger, an elephant, a tapir, a bug, whatever it is. I love it. I love nature. I love God reflected in nature. Love it, love it, love it. So anyway, I got on too long. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video, I hope.